Hey guys, hoping all is well with everyone. So in this video we're going to be continuing the read aloud of the Crime Traveler's Adventure Series, Book 1, Brainwashed. Last time we completed Chapter 33, so we'll be starting with Chapter 34 today, and I hope you guys are all doing well, and I hope you enjoy the read today. Chapter 34, Shakespeare in Paris. They fled the choir section and threw off their robes. Lucas, Astrid, Travis, Jackknife, and Nalini and Gini slipped out the cathedral's back door through a swarm of tourists and past Eki and Gopher waiting at the front door. They ran down the island and through a bird market and finally came to the Pont Neuf, the new bridge, which at more than 400 years old was the oldest bridge in Paris. There, they crossed the River Seine and into an insane part of town. The Latin Quarter was the unofficial headquarters of the bohemian lifestyle in Paris, which meant anything could happen. Like the cameras were watching them, Lucas eyeballed everything. Restaurants full of people lined the streets. Waiters were zipping back and forth to tables on the sidewalks. Partway down the street, a butcher carried half a bloody cow on his shoulder and into his shop. Close by, a film crew aimed lights up toward a building. An actor, an enormous woman in a maid's outfit, squeezed her big arms through a dormer window and called out, "Garde del Leu!" She cackled as she threw a quart of liquid down onto the street. "Gross," Astrid said. "What?" Jackknife asked. Astrid explained, "I think that's supposed to be the lady's chamber pot she was throwing out." Nalini winced. "As in poo?" "Yes," said Astrid. "As in got to go to the loo." Lucas trudged on. "Let's get to the bookstore." "And to a real bathroom?" Astrid added. Lucas's internal map told him they were close to the safe house. They rounded the next corner and saw a sign that Astrid had been begging for all day. Shakespeare and Company. They read a note on the safe house door. Ferme. Closed. Lucas knocked. Inside, an old woman set a coffee cup on a counter and shuffled to the door, her hand quivering as she fumbled her keys. She opened the door. "Andres," she said over the sounds of creaking hinges. The gray-haired woman cast a cautious eye into the street and then let the children in. She shut the door quickly and locked it, the blinds clanging against the glass. The inside of the shop was dark and musty and smelled of old books and French fries. From floor to ceiling, nearly every point was crammed with literature. Stacked on the floor and scattered on tables and chairs, there were piles of hardbacks, paperbacks, and even unfinished manuscripts. The spaces between the banisters posts were crammed with small collections of series books. There was a rack of old clothes toward the back. On the top floor, somebody's frilly underwear hung from the clothesline. "I am calling myself Madame Beach," said the old woman. Her English was quite good, but her French accent was strong. "You must excuse my English, for it is too long that I am not speaking it." Astrid and Nalini hopped as they walked toward the back of the shop. "Excuse me, Madame Beach," Astrid said. "Before I do anything, I need a bathroom." The wrinkles in Madame Beach's forehead deepened. "Excusez-moi?" "A bathroom?" said Astrid. It was clear that the native French speaker was confused. Madame Beach battered her eyelashes as it tried to figure out exactly what Astrid was saying. "Bathroom?" Madame Beach said, dropping the H. "You want to take a bath? Are you dirty?" "Not a bath," said Travis calmly. "A WC," added Nalini. Jackknife was blunt. "They have to go. Pee." "Ah, pee-pee," said Madame Beach. "You need la toilette, not a bathroom." The old woman pointed, and the girls scurried down the hallway. Travis and Jackknife milled around the store and stopped when they found an old collection of Asterix comic books. Lucas was standing still, thinking about how to get Madame Beach to take care of Genie. "She needs," said Lucas, squishing the diaper. He was too tired to remember how to say the word in French, so he said, "She needs to change le diaper." "La couche," corrected Madame Beach. She took the baby from Lucas and whispered, "Come with me. Upstairs." Lucas followed Madame Beach and Gini up a worn red staircase. When they got to the second floor, Lucas couldn't believe who was there. "Dad," Lucas said, "it's really you. It's really you this time." Still wearing a sport jacket, Mr. Beans opened his arms and gave Lucas a giant bear hug. "Lucas," he said, "I'm so glad you're all right." Lucas's shoulders collapsed as he fell into his father's chest. He didn't want to move. Part of him wanted to stay right there wrapped in his dad's arms, listening to his heartbeat. But the other part of Lucas had too much to tell. "You're not going to believe what we saw," said Lucas, stepping back from his father. "Miss Guenerro has got this crazy ceremony, and she wears this mask and chants some kind of weird language, and she gave Jackknife a drug, and she tried to recruit me, and then..." Slow down, Mr. Beans said. He looked to Madame Beach. "I have to say hello first." Mr. Beans turned to Madame Beach, and they lightly kissed each other's cheeks. 1, 2, 3 times they touched cheeks. He rubbed Genie on the head. "My old friend," he said to Madame Beach, "thank you for everything. Again." "Yes," Madame Beach smiled. "That makes a long time since I am seeing you. I am happy you remembered our secret entrance." "The trap door needs a little oil," said Mr. Beans, smiling at Madame Beach. "How are you, Adrian?" "I am well." Mr. Bean's tone changed. "We still have some work to do. After what he's done today, apparently," she said. Then she gestured toward Lucas. "Is he ready?" "After what he's done today and yesterday," said Mr. Beans, "Lucas is most definitely ready." "Then it is time to tell him everything we know." Still carrying Genie, Madame Beach led the way through a small room filled with books. Mr. Beans put his arm around Lucas and followed the old French woman into a tiny apartment. Mr. Beans looked Genie and changed her diaper, while Lucas went into the upstairs bathroom. When he came out, he looked around the apartment. Behind the clothesline of old lady underwear, there was a single bed next to the kitchenette. Dishes were neatly stacked, and a flower wilted in a glass by a window. On top of a dresser, there was a collection of picture frames. Lucas felt a sudden and strange attraction to the photographs. "Lucas, sit down for a second," said Mr. Beans. "I want to hear all about everything you've seen and done since I last saw you. But right now, we don't have the time." "What do you mean?" Lucas said, taking a canabacked chair. "We've seen a brainwashing ceremony. We know how she does it. Travis even knows the language." "That's great," said Mr. Beans as he too sat down at the little table. "But I've spent a good portion of the past 2 days at the ICMEC getting fresh information on the good company." Mr. Beans glanced at Madame Beach, but he didn't slow down. "It seems the good company is having many troubles, and money troubles. You knew they lost a multi-million-dollar contract to guard the Eiffel Tower, but as it turns out, they've also lost several other contracts worldwide, which is why Miss Guenerro and Magnus are working feverishly to find new ways to make money." "Yeah, but," said Lucas, "Robbie said earlier that the good company had reported earning more money than ever before." Madame Beach grinned cynically. "Not all companies are honest." "So," said Lucas, "that's why Mrs. Guenerro's going to do a big mass kidnapping for Bonjour?" "Right," said Mr. Beans. "But there's something else." Madame Beach picked Genie up, stood next to Mr. Beans, and stared at his profile. "It is what I think it is, no?" "Yes," said Mr. Beans as he looked at Madame Beach. "You've been right since the very beginning." Lucas couldn't keep his eyes from drifting toward the photographs on the dresser. "Go ahead," said Madame Beach. "You want to look at those photos, no?" Lucas leaned forward and studied the collection, cataloging every detail of every picture. The frames were different sizes and shapes, some silver and others wooden. The photographs were mostly black and white, with an aged sepia look. The pictures had been taken all over the world: London, Disney World, the Alhambra, Tiananmen Square, Red Square, and Washington, D.C. "Do you see her?" Madame Beach asked. "Who?" "Your mother." "Yeah," said Lucas, pointing at a photograph. "I recognize her picture, but she was only my mother for a day." Lucas looked again at the picture of Astrid's mother. She was standing on the steps of the good hotel in Bali with a surfboard under her arm. Madame Beach corrected him. "I am not talking of the mother of Astrid," she said. She placed her hand on Mr. Beans' shoulder. "Not this man's wife, not Kate Beans. I make reference to your mother, your birth mother, Lucas." Goosebumps covered Lucas's entire body as he heard the words. "What do you mean?" He swallowed hard and then repeated, "What do you mean, my birth mother?" Mr. Beans walked across the tiny apartment to Lucas, while Madame Beach set Genie on a blanket with a bowl of dry cereal and a sippy cup. Since Lucas had never seen a photograph of his birth mother, he scanned every picture on the dresser into his memory one more time. "The one in the boat," said Madame Beach, now standing next to Lucas. Lucas's arm reached over the rows of picture frames. His hand moved in slow motion as he lifted a photograph from the very back row of the collection. The picture was of a woman with long black hair sitting in a wooden motorboat moored near Notre Dame Cathedral. Lucas stared at this picture for what seemed like 14 years. "She is beautiful, no?" said Madame Beach longingly. The sound of the old woman's voice startled Lucas. He wasn't quite sure how long he had actually been staring at the photograph. Part of him couldn't believe this was a picture of his real mother, and another part of him wanted to jump inside the photograph and sit right next to her on the boat. Lucas glanced up at his father, then snapped his eyes back to the first photograph of his birth mother he had ever seen. You knew her?" Lucas said, touching the glass. "We all worked together at the good hotel," said Madame Beach. "I hired your mother." "You were her boss?" "A long time ago, I was an international manager of all good hotels worldwide," said Madame Beach. "And I hired your mother to work at the hotel in Buenos Aires." "To do what?" "She was a cleaning woman." Lucas grinned as he thought about the housekeepers at the Globe Hotel in Las Vegas. "My mother was a cleaning lady in a hotel," said Lucas humbly. "That's so cool. Did you know that, Dad?" "I did." Madame Beach held onto Mr. Beans' arm. "I also hired this handsome man when he was just finished with university." "And Kate, too," said Mr. Beans. "So," said Lucas, "where is she now?" "My mother. My birth mother," I do not know, sadly, said Madame Beach. During the Hotel Conference here in Paris, she and I shared many good company secrets on the boat when this picture was taken. But that was 15 years ago. Unfortunately, Madame Guenerro discovered what your birth mother was keeping a journal. Was she a spy or something? No, said Mr. Beans. She was just a good person who did good things. She discovered Mrs. Guenerro's child trafficking network a long time ago, and she kept notes in her journal. So what happened after Mrs. Guenerro found out? After the conference, Madame Guenerro changed the good company. She sent many women employees into hiding, Tierra del Fuego and Senegal in particular. And you just let them go? Madame Guenerro is very strong, the old woman explained. If we were ever going to help them, we knew that we had to save ourselves first. So, I quit my position with the good company, and I hired your father again, and Kate too. We started the Globe Hotel together, and with your mother's information, we secretly started the New Resistance to stop Madame Guenerro and to find these lost women like your mother. This was the best story Lucas had ever heard. Which brings us to today, said Mr. Beans. Today at the ICMEC, I learned that your mother, your birth mother, discovered some other illegal activities at the good company. More than kidnapping and child trafficking? Mr. Beans breathed deeply. The ICMEC has proof that Ms. Guenerro has been embezzling money, stealing from her own company for years. Before your mother found out, Ms. Guenerro had moved billions, not millions, but billions of dollars, yen, euros, and every kind of stock and world currency into secret hidden accounts. My mother was a cleaning lady, said Lucas. Why would she know anything about the hotel's money? Because, said Madame Beach, she took out the trash, and people's secrets are always in the trash. To make a long story short, said Mr. Beans, your mother found out about these accounts and had the money moved into secret accounts somewhere else in the world. And then she changed all the account numbers and passcodes. So she stole stolen money? Not exactly, said Mr. Beans. She didn't steal it. She transferred the money to stop Miss Guenerro from kidnapping and putting more children to work. But, said Madame Beach, we do not know where it is located. The money, the codes, or the accounts. What do you mean? Lucas looked at both the adults standing before him. So nobody but my mother knew about this money? There have always been rumors in the New Resistance, said Madame Beach, but never proof of this large sum of money. The problem has always been, said Mr. Beans, that the account numbers and all the codes to all the accounts were supposedly destroyed in the ferry boat accident that you were in. What? Lucas said, still somewhat skeptical. You see, Lucas, said Madame Beach, when your mother arrived in Tierra del Fuego, she was about to give birth to you, and she knew that as soon as you were born, Madame Guenerro would take her away and torture her to make her tell where she had hidden the money. Your mother wanted to protect you, so she gave you to the nuns, and she called me to have you adopted. Madame Beach then smiled sweetly at Mr. Beans. I naturally called John and Kate here to adopt you. Kate and your mother, said Mr. Beans, had been good friends at the good hotel, which is why Kate went to adopt you, and not me. Lucas was desperately trying to piece this story together. So my mother gave the codes to Kate, and they were lost when Kate died on the ferry? We had always thought that your mother had given Kate the codes, said Mr. Beans. But the ICMEC believes that the nuns at your Tierra del Fuego hospital gave the codes not to my wife, not to Kate, but actually to you. Me? I was only a baby. I didn't have them, said Lucas. He paused. Did I? No, said Madame Beach. Impossible. Gini crawled between the group and untied Mr. Bean's shoes. Weird, Lucas said. Miss Guenerro said today that Kate Bean stole very important account information from her, and she said that those numbers died with her. Madame Guenerro was lying to you, said Madame Beach. She was testing you to verify what you knew. Because, said Mr. Beans, the ICMEC told me today that Miss Guenerro believes that you have always had the numbers and the codes. For the second time that day, Lucas's brain ran through every number that he had ever seen in his entire life. This time he actually came up with a few possibilities. Still holding the picture of his mother in his hand, Lucas stared at his father and Madame Beach. Maybe that's why Miss Guenerro wanted me to join her company, said Lucas. What do you mean? Mr. Beans asked. Lucas explained. We were in her office earlier today. It was freezing, and she made us a proposal to either be brainwashed or work with a good company. She tried to make it seem like we would be safe if we worked for her. It was really weird. Interesting, Mr. Beans said. Miss Guenerro knows something we don't. So, said Lucas, how do I find out about my mother then? I do not know if she is alive or not, said Madame Beach. Unfortunately, there is probably only one person who could tell us where she is. Everything became clear to Lucas. Siba Guenerro, he said. Mr. Beans looked at his adopted son. Are you okay with this? I've waited my whole life for this, he said. I just didn't know it. Excuse me. Madame Beach batted her eyes. You know where to go? Lucas was ultra confident. There's only one place that Miss Guenerro would try to pull off a mass kidnapping. In his heart, he made himself and his mother a promise. Lucas set the picture frame back on the dresser. He looked down at Gini, and he knew he had to leave her. He picked Gini up, gave her a hug, and handed her to Madame Beach. He could actually feel a lump in his throat. It didn't feel right, but he knew it was the logical thing to do. Then Lucas shook the thought from his head, focused on what he had to do, and flew down the staircase. Everybody, he announced, listen up. I want everybody to change clothes. What? Astrid argued. Travis chuckled. The fashion police strike again. Nalini joked. Is La France rubbing off on you? No, not now, guys, Lucas fired back. I know what I'm doing. Put some Frenchy clothes on so we don't stick out. Astrid seemed shocked by Lucas's tone of voice, but she copied Nalini and stepped behind a rack of clothes. Lucas joined Travis and Jackknife behind a stand of dress shirts. The clothes on the hangers had been there so long that they had gone out of style, and back in, without ever having left the store. Astrid and Nalini seemed to have a fabulous time free shopping. They nearly fell over each other laughing. While Astrid flashed a pair of hippie pants, Nalini held up a velvet dress for everyone to see. Talk about vintage, said Astrid, who grabbed another pair of striped bell-bottoms. Look at these. Lucas knew Jackknife and Travis were not normally into shopping for clothes. They threw on the first things that fit and stepped into the middle of the room. The boys were all dressed in dark t-shirts, gray pair carton canvas pants and brown leather shoes. Lucas took the 2 key cards from his old pants. There was the Globe Hotel key card and the one for the Buttress, and the one that Buttress had given Astrid in the Good Hotel, and Gini had reactivated it. He put both cards into his back pocket. The girls looked like Parisian postcards. Astrid wore a Hermes striped blouse and a black Chanel skirt with a small slit in the side. She spun around to show it off. Ever the fashion queen, Nalini wore a black lace dress from Lecroy with black lob sandals and, of course, her signature bells on her wrists. Madame Beach held Gini, and they looked down over the railing at the 2 girls. Gini said, "Ooh la la." "Madame Beach," Lucas called upstairs, "do you still have the boat?" "But of course," said the old woman. Lucas stared at the traffic outside the bookshop's front window. "I need a key." Madame Beach leaned over the railing. "Who knows how to drive a boat on a river?" "I do," Jackknife said confidently. "I grew up on the Amazon." "Follow the river east," said Madame Beach. "Descend the 3rd staircase and you will see my boat. The key is inside the flagpole." "What's the name of the boat?" Astrid said. Madame Beach winked at Lucas. "Le secret," she said. And I'll stop the video there, ending chapter 34. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video today and the read aloud. I hope you guys are all doing well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please take good care and be safe. And I hope to see you guys soon as we continue our read along of the Crime Travelers adventure series, Brainwashed, as we get closer to the end but still have a lot to unravel. Take good care, guys.